20-year-old is critically injured after a drive-by shooting in Scarborough.
An individual fired from one vehicle into the vehicle of the other.
The shooting happened in a residential area during a busy time of day. We're live at the scene with the latest on the police investigation.
This is a sham. The Premier knows perfectly well what needs to happen here.
Plus, the opposition accuses the government of a sham review. We'll take you to Queen's Park for the latest in the Greenbelt land swap saga.
It's surprisingly pretty hot today, yeah.
And learning in a heat wave. We'll show you how schools tried to stay safe today amid scorching back-to-school temperatures. I'm Chris Glover. Thanks for joining us. We're tracking several developing stories in Scarborough tonight, beginning with the scene near Kennedy Road and Highway 401. That is where police say one young person has died after reports of a stabbing at an apartment building. Right now, we don't have very many details about exactly what happened, but the incident leading to a heavy police presence at the residential building in the area of Dundalk Drive and Antrim Crescent. The homicide unit has taken over the investigation, and we will bring you the latest developments as soon as they become available. Further east, near Markham and Ellesmere, a man is in life-threatening condition after a drive-by shooting this afternoon. It happened just a couple of blocks away from the busy Scarborough Town Centre. Anam Khan is live there for us tonight. Anam, what is the latest from the scene tonight?
So, Chris, not too long ago, police removed the tape that was blocking off a large section of this road. So now residents can go in and out of their homes as they please. But behind me is the car that was being driven by the shooting victim. And that is still taped off, as you can see. And, you know, this brought a lot of distress to a lot of the people and the residents here. I spoke to one woman who came out of her home after she heard screaming, and it was the passenger of the victim, the woman who sat right beside the victim, and she was under a lot of distress, and as were many others in the neighborhood.
Several residents in a busy Scarborough neighborhood were shaken this afternoon after hearing a gunshot during the day. After police responded to the area close to Scarborough Town Centre, Dolly Varden Boulevard was temporarily closed between Ellesmere Road and Bremorton Drive. Police say the driver of a black Toyota was shot around 5 p.m. today by a person in another vehicle. The black Toyota crashed into a tree after the shooting, and the driver, in their 20s, was taken to a trauma center. A passenger of the black Toyota was not injured and was able to escape. Police are still looking for suspects.
The suspect vehicle was last seen northbound. It's described as a light-colored SUV. The number of occupants in that vehicle is unknown, and we do not know exactly what weapon was used in relation to this investigation.
Police say they were in the neighborhood looking for evidence in relation to the shooting, like cartridge casings, ammunition, and the weapon itself. And officers want to know what led up to the shooting. Anybody
that was in the area, even south of here, north of here, in the general area, may have information that's going to assist us. One vehicle has made their escape, so obviously they're in the area somewhere, or obviously were before the incident occurred. So any of that information before and afterwards would be very beneficial to us.
So police say a daytime shooting is very alarming. They're asking residents to check their property for anything suspicious. As for the shooting victim, he was still listed as in critical condition in the hospital as of this evening.
All right, Anam Khan there with the latest live for us tonight. Thanks, Anam. Staying in Scarborough, a man was killed and a woman has life-threatening injuries after they were struck by a truck outside a plaza today.
The truck was reversing in the plaza and struck the two pedestrians. Unfortunately, one of the pedestrians, who's an elderly male, was pronounced deceased at the scene, and a second victim, an elderly female, was transported to a hospital.
It happened over the lunch hour near Steeles Avenue and Silver Star Boulevard, east of Kennedy Road. Police say the driver remained on scene and is cooperating with investigators, but any witnesses are still urged to come forward. Taking you next over to Etobicoke for another active investigation. Police say a man died at a home near the Queensway and Park Lawn after a shooting late last night. For the latest on that investigation, let's get to Greg Ross at the scene.
Just before midnight, residents of Bonnyview Drive in Etobicoke heard gunshots.
I was in my basement and I heard pow, pow, pow. And then I came out and then everything flashing.
This man had just stepped outside to take his dog for a walk.
We heard about 3 to 5 gunshots, and my dog started to kind of freak out and pull us back home.
When police arrived, they found a man laying in the driveway of this home on Bonnyview Drive. Attempts were made to save his life before he was taken to a hospital where he later died.
This is an ongoing thing happening in our city now, and it's just, it's out of control. I mean, it's obviously very close to home.
This home where the shooting happened is listed for rent on Airbnb for $2,500 a night. But residents tell us they don't believe the home was rented out last night and that rentals here were becoming less and less frequent.
Not so much anymore.
Not as much now.
Not so much, no.
They say at least one person had been living here on a consistent basis who is well known to neighbors.
He was a nice guy. I remember the last time it was pouring rain and I was walking to go catch the bus. He stopped and asked me where I'm going. I said, I'm going to the subway. And he picked me up and bring me to the subway.
Residents say parties were a regular thing here and that police were often called, but that wasn't the case last night.
It wasn't like a big party or anything.
Right.
It just sounded like a couple of people together.
At this point, police have not released the identity of the victim. They also have not provided any information about a potential motive or suspect information. A big part of the police investigation did involve that stairwell steps from the home. It leads to the Queensway just west of Park Lawn. It's believed that may have been the route the suspects used to escape. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to what the Premier is calling a complete review from top to bottom. That is what Doug Ford is promising today in relation to the Greenbelt land swap deal. It comes, of course, after 2 investigations found the process to allow development on protected lands was flawed and rushed. Still, the opposition says a review isn't needed. It's a dirty deal that needs to just be straight up reversed. Lorenda Redekop takes us through today's developments.
Premier Doug Ford announced a big task for his new housing minister, Paul Calandra, a Greenbelt review.
There's going to be a complete review from top to bottom, and then they're going to have to stand on their own merit. And it's not just the 14 lands.
14 refers to those lands that were removed from the Greenbelt. During a review, he says development can still go ahead on those sites, but the whole Greenbelt will now be looked at.
I believe the Premier today declared open season on the Greenbelt.
The new review didn't quiet down the outrage from opposition parties.
This is just going to be a colossal waste of our time and our money.
The NDP leader repeated the call to return the lands to the Greenbelt.
It's a complete sham. This is a sham. The Premier knows perfectly well what needs to happen here. These were dirty deals.
Recent investigations found most of the sites taken out of the Greenbelt were suggested by the housing minister's chief of staff. Almost all the sites owned by a few wealthy developers he connected with. The Auditor General finding it'll mean an extra $8.3 billion in property values. Today is the first time we've heard from the Premier since Housing Minister Steve Clark resigned yesterday, and since sources told media that the mysterious Mr. X in the Integrity Commissioner report, an alleged illegal lobbyist on a Greenbelt deal, was the former mayor of Clarington, John Mutton. In photos with the Premier and several of his ministers, the Premier brushed that off.
I just be a gentleman, and if they want to take a picture, they take a picture.
During Ford's 50-minute news conference, he tried to focus on his government's plan to build more homes, also blaming the former Liberal government that first created the Greenbelt.
Didn't consult with anyone when they took 2 million acres of privately owned property off people and just moved forward with it with no consultation.
Except there was consultation, something the Auditor General noted in her report, including a task force and input from stakeholders. Ford also repeatedly miscounted the recommendations from the Auditor General.
Well, there was 14 recommendations, and I said we're going to follow those 14 recommendations.
Except there are 15. The one the government isn't following is to reevaluate its Greenbelt decision. As for that review and which lands could be removed, that'll be up to the new minister, the Premier says. Paul Calandra, known as an attack dog and strong communicator of the government's message.
And I think the appointment of Mr. Calandra is very clearly a move that's not about housing. It's about protect the king. protect the king. The king's at risk.
Opposition parties believe this does connect to the premier. So far, there's no evidence of that. And we're going to hear from the new housing minister tomorrow. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
A stifling 26 degrees out there this evening, but with the Humidex, it feels like 34 as we look live at the city tonight. Let's get right to Colette for the latest on the extreme heat. And Colette, still another day of hot, humid weather.
Yes, Chris, our heat wave continues. Our heat wave in September with kids back to school. We couldn't get it in August, but here it is. We have at least another day for Eastern Ontario. I wouldn't be surprised if it holds even into Thursday, the warnings there. So still looking at these highs, 30 degrees or a bit above. The Humidex values are around 40, and we know our overnight lows aren't very cool either. So even keeping those temperatures up, the overnight lows are closer to what a daytime high should be really for this time of year. Speaking of daytime highs, 32.2 for Pearson today, the second hottest September 5th since we've been keeping records. Couldn't quite get that record. 32 in Ottawa as well. And look at the afternoon Humidex values. Lots of readings at 40 or 41. So definitely oppressive. Definitely you need to kind of take it easy, take breaks, and stay well hydrated. We will have a cold front that's going to be changing things tomorrow afternoon. That chance of showers or some stronger thunderstorms into southwestern Ontario, then into cottage country. And really we see that chance for the GTA more into tomorrow evening, but it does linger into Thursday. So Chris, overnight tonight, 22. Let's do it again tomorrow, 32. Feeling closer to 41.
Let's do it again. Do we have to? All right, thanks, Colette. All right, so not quite record-breaking heat today, but really uncomfortable, especially for a lot of students and teachers who went back to class today. With many schools lacking air conditioning, finding ways to keep students safe will be top of mind for school boards this week. Ali Chiasson has more on what they're trying to do.
Back to school for kids and parents means
Back to normalcy. Back to the grind.
about time, too.
It got boring, so I was excited to come back.
Back to class, back to fun.
I play basketball at recess, and I hang out with my friends.
As this sixth grader points out,
It's surprisingly pretty hot today, yeah.
this school year is starting off in a heat wave. Some students will feel it more than others, especially if their school isn't fully air conditioned.
It's a little hot, but there are ways that we try and help the kids stay cool inside. There's multiple fans and things. We also have a cooling station in our gym.
Out of 583 TDSB schools, only 177 are largely air-conditioned. For the remaining 406,
they'll have a large area like the library or the gym that has an air conditioning unit. And what they'll do today, because it's going to be super hot, is rotate the kids through for cooling breaks. And in terms of recess, that's like a local school decision. But in some cases where it's more of a concrete playground, they may think today's a day that we stay in.
So what are the doctor's orders for staying healthy in a heat wave? Water, for one.
Most kids don't think about drinking water. Actually, we don't even think about drinking water until you get thirsty. If you don't drink regularly, you're going to become dehydrated very quickly.
And maybe take it easy outside as much as you can. Convince a kid to take it easy at recess on the first day of school.
So when you're outdoors, we like to keep it to a minimum because the kids can run around and then they overheat. And this is where clothing becomes important, right? So the tight stuff on your skin, there's going to be no airflow going across, so there's no evaporation. You're just trapping all the heat on your skin. So we want kind of flowy kind of clothing.
Maybe it sounds obvious, but it's a very belated hot spell.
This is catching us off guard. It's kind of like the first snowstorm. Nobody knows how to drive. This is the same thing, this heat wave.
Good to brush up.
Stay in the shade.
Brush off those school jitters. Stay cool and
eat freezies.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Mayor Olivia Chow welcoming students back to class with a message aimed at motorists today.
I urge all road users in Toronto to please slow down, stay alert, and stay focused.
The mayor was also on hand there for the first day of class at St. Aidan Catholic Elementary School in Scarborough. She was there alongside Toronto police as they kicked off their back-to-school traffic safety campaign. Drivers can expect to see an increased police presence in and around school zones for the rest of the week. Welcome back. 2 Toronto men are now facing charges in connection with a more than 3-year-old murder in Stoney Creek.
The 2 individuals that have been arrested, as I say, I won't delve too much into the investigation, but the investigation did involve organized crime.
42-year-old realtor Giorgio Baresi was shot and killed in the driveway of his Stoney Creek home in March of 2020. The 2 men now facing first-degree murder charges in his death are 41-year-old Jamal Chemin and 27-year-old Sarosa Mode. Both men are from Toronto. Detectives believe there are other suspects involved in Baresi's killing. To that end, they're keeping in place a $50,000 reward for information that leads to more arrests. To London now, and jury selection has started in the trial of a man accused of deliberately running down a Muslim family 2 years ago. Nathaniel Veltman pleaded not guilty this morning. Chris Ensing has the latest.
The accused stood before potential jurors today wearing black dress pants and an untucked dress shirt. Nathaniel Veltman did not speak as the justice read out the charges. 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder. He pleaded not guilty through his lawyers. He's on trial for the murder of 4 members of the Afzal family. Just over 2 years ago, the Afzals were out for an evening stroll near their home when they were struck and killed by a person driving a pickup truck. 15-year-old Yumna Afzal, her parents, Medea Salman and Salman Afzal, and the family matriarch, Talat Afzal, were killed. Police arrested Nathaniel Veltman in a parking lot nearby. Thousands marched and rallied in support of the Afzal family and to denounce Islamophobia. A judge moved the trial to Windsor from London, the reasoning covered by a publication ban. The trial will be broadcast to a London courthouse, allowing people to watch. As a jury was selected inside, outside, members of the National Canadian Council of Muslims called for justice.
Ultimately, we are looking for justice for our London family and for our community to feel protected, to feel safe, and to know that our justice system will do what is necessary to deter this from ever happening again. This moment must be a catalyst for change so that all of us in this country feel safe just doing ordinary things in our communities.
The NCCM has called for more effort from the federal and provincial governments to combat Islamophobia and commit to promises made following the attack in London. Those calls echoed by the organization Canadians United Against Hate.
What we have called for repeatedly, both before and after this incident occurred, was for the federal government to undertake a nationally coordinated anti-hate strategy, coordinating with the provinces.
I'm going to be thinking about my kids for sure.
Here in Windsor, this organizer, who spoke at the annual walks to honor the Afzal family, is bracing for a trial that may be re-traumatizing.
Really important to stay vigilant and to check on your Muslim neighbors or Muslim friends maybe, because a lot of feelings will be coming back with the trial being in Windsor as well.
Opening arguments are expected to start next week. Lawyers say that this trial could last 3 months. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor, Ontario.
27 Metro grocery stores across the GTA reopened today after a month-long strike. More than 3,700 employees went on strike on July 29th, calling for higher wages and better working conditions. Their union reached a tentative agreement with Metro last week, and the new deal gives part-time workers an immediate wage hike of $1.50 per hour, while full-time and senior part-time workers will get an increase of $2 per hour within months. Back to you, Colette, and we've got one more day of this oppressive heat.
Yes, we are going to keep that heat warning for at least one more day. And Eastern Ontario, as I was saying earlier in the show, perhaps another day after that. Some scattered thunderstorms developing out ahead of a cold front. That cold front will bring the change, but it'll be gradual. So temps come down, humidity begins to come down Thursday. You'll feel it more into Friday, but especially for the weekend. And you can see that so pronounced as we go into Wednesday. Today, Moose City was up to 34 degrees. Well, into Wednesday, behind the front, much cooler conditions. conditions, still into the heat, and on Thursday, still at least some mild temperatures, and humidex values will still likely be in the low to mid 30s, just not up around 40. Then by Friday, you could really see those temperature contours changing over to the yellows and seeing things becoming more comfortable. Well, the record high for Pearson on this date in history was set just in 2018, 34.2. We were 32.2, so that's how we missed it by just a couple of degrees. Can you imagine had it been warmer? And then we go and we look ahead. A lot of sunshine through the day tomorrow, a few clouds into the afternoon, but for southwestern Ontario into the afternoon, you get into that risk of some thunderstorms, some stronger cells certainly possible with that timing there and all this humidity. And then it's more of an evening situation and overnight into the GTA, and then really lingering with more cloud cover and scattered showers and thunderstorms into Thursday. Now for tomorrow, ahead of that front, do anticipate that the winds at times will be stronger coming out of the south to southwest. Some of those gusts, especially for southwestern Ontario, up there closer to 40 kilometers an hour or stronger than that. Overnight temperatures, look at these lows. A teen, well, how about Peterborough at 19? Those are the 6 a.m. figures. So still quite mild as you're sending the kids off to school or off to the bus stop. And you'll need them to be prepared for what's to come through the day in the classroom. Make sure you send a lot of water along with them. 32 are high. Those late day thunderstorms, then 26, but still feeling like 35. By the end of the week, Friday, it'll be more comfortable in terms of the humidity, and then a much drier feel, even if some rain showers in the forecast, Chris, for the weekend.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Colette. Finally, tonight we'll end on a good news note. A dog that was stolen from a car on Sunday has been found safe and returned to its owners. We want to show you Pino, a 7-year-old toy poodle. Police say Pino was in a vehicle in a parking lot near Broadview and Arundel Avenue on Sunday night when someone broke into the vehicle and took the dog. And police put out a call to the public for help finding the pooch. And the good news tonight, Pino was found unharmed and in good health and is back at home tonight. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.